I'm Caroline Jarrett. Today I'm pleased to have Carol Narcisse of the United Nations Development Programme as my guest. We will be discussing the UNDP's role in the PSOJ's Imagine Jamaica project and also the UNDP's proposal to private sector entities to join with it in co-financing development projects. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you so much, Caroline.
Can we start off with a brief overview of the UNDP and its charter?
Yes, and in fact, UNDP, an acronym that not everyone necessarily knows. So it means the United Nations Development Programme, and as the name suggests, UNDP is that team member of the UN system that handles all matters related to poverty eradication and advancing development issues generally.
And what are some of the specific projects that the UNDP focuses on in Jamaica?
The UNDP globally, and therefore Jamaica is no exception, focuses on 5 main areas of development. Firstly, promoting good governance, and in that area we help states with developing their electoral machinery, developing their electoral processes, and civic education. Poverty eradication is the major focus and thrust of the UNDP. Many people are familiar with the global report we put out called the Human Development Report, and we have put out here in Jamaica 2 such reports: poverty eradication, conflict resolution, conflict management, crisis management. For us, under crisis management, we focus primarily in Jamaica on disaster and disaster risk response, disaster risk reduction. But also in other parts of the world, conflict embodies violence and intervening in situations of violence. And then fourthly, is that 4?
4.
I've lost count. So we have poverty, governance, conflict, crisis reduction, the environment, energy and the environment, and HIV/AIDS in a small, very small way, because of course there is UN-AIDS as a discrete agency.
Now we understand that the UNDP and the PSOJ have signed a memorandum of understanding. What do you hope for this MOU to achieve?
The UNDP has an interest. Globally, the UN has initiated something called the Global Compact. And in that Global Compact, the intention is to build partnerships with private sectors globally. So within that context of the Global Compact, in which we're saying private corporate citizens are just that, citizens. And so since corporate entities are citizens, the United Nations is wanting to engage with that section of the citizenry, engaging in a number of ways. As co-financiers, because a big part of what the UN does is to support, finance development projects around the world. So we're saying, come companies, come corporate citizenry, join with the UN to support the financing of projects, but also let's together promote an understanding of corporate social responsibility that applies to the internal workings of the company. The giving, but also how it is that companies develop their internal worker participation, worker well-being types of processes. So in that context, we have partnered with the PSOJ, not exclusively, because we know that the Jamaican private sector goes beyond the membership of the PSOJ, but the PSOJ represents a valuable one-stop shop, if one wants to call it that. So the MOU with the PSOJ is focused on 3 main areas: promoting corporate social responsibility, because we want to see that happen here in Jamaica, and the PSOJ, as you know, is embarking on that thrust. So UNDP wants to support the PSOJ's efforts there. And then secondly, to promote what we are hoping will emerge is a joint UNDP private sector co-financing partnership, so that some of the projects that we're supporting here in Jamaica, we can have corporate partners joining along with us.
You mentioned the Jamaica Development Co-Financing Facility. What are the expected benefits from this facility?
All right. So we're kind of charting new ground, new territory, new waters here. Elsewhere, and not in the region as well, in the Caribbean, in Barbados, in Trinidad, the UN offices there have gone a far way with developing partnerships with the private sectors in those other islands. And so UNDP wants to lead that charge here in Jamaica, where private sector entities can join in partnership with the UN, and the UN in Jamaica is UNDP, UNICEF, everybody else, all the other UN agencies. The facility is what we're wanting to create is a mechanism through which companies that want to do more in terms of their corporate contribution to development efforts can have a place through which they can do it, where a number of things will be available to them. One, the management expertise of an organization like the UN, accustomed to managing and overseeing and coordinating project implementation, because that's a whole ball game in and of itself. And companies hardly have the time to do that themselves. So what you end up doing is you write a check and you don't know really how it goes after that. So the co-financing facility will allow companies to deposit funds with us, which they designate for particular projects that we are doing. And by that means, help us with the financing of those projects, benefit from the UN's long expertise in project management, project accountability, and also expertise in supporting project implementers to develop capacity. Because a lot of people have good ideas, but they may not necessarily really have the capacity to handle the implementation. And one of the things we do well is supporting people to develop capacity, so that at the end of the day, the projects that we all support in one way or another, at the end of the day, you can see it, touch it, measure it, and see that it actually has made a difference.